Morning, guys. It's Thursday morning. Hope you're in for a fantastic day. We want to continue today talking about that very difficult subject of what it means to forgive one another on the same basis that Jesus has forgiven us. Now, we see this so beautifully portrayed for us in that very simple statement in the Lord's Prayer: Father, forgive us, forgive me, us, our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. This is the horizontal level of forgiveness. As much as we have received forgiveness, we have to give it to one another as well. Now, the first criteria for forgiveness was that action of forgive and forget. And I would encourage you just to ponder that, go back and have a look at what we said on Tuesday. And then secondly, we need to forgive on the basis of not waiting for an apology. If you're waiting for an apology in order to forgive, you're in trouble before you start, because the chances are you're not going to get it. And the only thing you're going to get now is ulcers and bitterness and anger and more frustrated, because you're not going to get what you so desire. It's very unlikely. So we have to say, well, what do we do now? Well, apparently it gets even more difficult than that. Let me tell you what the next step of forgiveness is. The next step of forgiveness is where we forgive and we say, in order for forgiveness to happen, somebody, the innocent, has to absorb the guilt of the guilty. Let me say that again. The innocent assume the guilt of the guilty. It's not that they're saying they're guilty, that they themselves are guilty. They're assuming the guilt. You see, there's guilt and there's shame flying all over the place when something ugly happens. And when we say, man, I'm tired of this, the buck stops with me. That's a great expression. The buck stops here. And I will absorb the guilt of the guilty, and I will remember their sin no more, and I will continue to love them. Now, when you do that, and that has to be so difficult, man, that is so difficult, we are being more and more like Jesus. When Jesus hung upon that cross, and we remembered it this last weekend at Easter, it was like, if you visualize every sin ever committed is like an iron filing. And when Jesus hung upon the cross, he said, let me have it all. Let me not just have your sin, but let me have your guilt and your shame and everything else that goes with it. And let me take the guilt of the guilty, even though I am the perfect epitome of that which is innocent. Man, it's hard, eh? And yet Jesus says, that's what big people do. That's what big people who learn how to forgive do. They say, I'm not guilty in this. I don't think I am. My perception is that I'm not. But I will absorb the guilt of the guilty so that the guilty can go free. And when the guilty go free, so too do you. And when you're able to forgive like this, and when you're able to forgive to such an extent that you're able to release people, you release yourself from the cage of bitterness, from the cage of anger, and the cage of frustration. If you let them go and let them fly. Now, that's not a natural thing for humans to do, because for human beings, we want an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, don't we? And you know the joke about that is if we did that, there'd be a lot of blind, toothless people running around the place. Probably we would be one of them. But the eye for an eye, the tooth for a tooth is not the way to go. We learn to forgive and forget. We learn to forgive not on the basis of I'm sorry, and we learn to forgive on the basis of me absorbing the guilt of the guilty so that they can go free, and at the same time allow me to go free too. That's very difficult. You'll have to work it out in your own situation. You know, if ever you go to a psychologist or to a counselor, they have a thing they call transference. And transference is exactly this, is where a counselor will sit and listen to some people, and they will share their pain and their sadness and everything. And by the end of the session, they feel a whole lot better. You know why? Because they've dumped all that stuff that they've been holding inside them. They've put it on the counselor's desk, and they've walked out free, and the counselor now picks up, and he's the one that's sad. And transference takes place. And when we transfer our guilt, our shame, and our sin upon Jesus, that's what forgiveness is about. It's a terribly hard thing to do. But people, that's what forgiveness is on the biblical model. So I hope that we're able to do this. I hope that we're able to work this thing out in and through our minds so that we can become everything that Jesus wants for us to be. Have a great day, you guys, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Cheers.